Hey, so I was a bit bored today. Then I saw our friend Commander Sirius dropped a video about a pretty interesting topic. I went over it. I had a few issues with some of the things he mentioned. So I just wanted to do kind of like a reaction video with my thoughts. Hopefully, you guys enjoy. A disclaimer like, I don't hate the guy. I'm subbed to his channel, I've got notifications on. I'm not joining his paid club. Sorry, I'm poor. Shout out to whoever's spending €100 a month on the Serious Club, though. But yeah, like I have nothing against the guy. I will admit a lot of his takes I don't agree with, but occasionally he does drop some nice things, and also I can see where he's coming from because yeah, you want to cater to the wider Planetside 2 audience, and yeah, let's just say the average Planetside 2 player, yeah, they'll enjoy this, but I don't think they'll enjoy my reaction. Anyways, let's just get started.
Hello, Raxians. Hello, Commander Sirius here. Today I want to talk about a staple of the Planetside franchise, that is three-faction warfare. When it works well, it serves as an important balancing mechanic, but when it doesn't work, one faction gets over-focused and all the fights fall apart across the entire map. Let's
So yeah, just starting off, I'm pretty sure that the three factions was never the main selling point of the game. Even in the beginning, it was supposed to launch with just NCNTR, and then they kind of threw VS in last minute. And I'm assuming that's probably why their guns feel like the most bland of the other factions. So yeah, like I'm pretty sure the three factions was never like the main selling point of the game. The whole concept was advertised as basically a battlefield but on a larger scale, right? Like they were going to cram as many players as they could onto a big map, have these huge fights, and it was just supposed to be a battlefield with similar gunplay, although I do think they did it a bit better in this game, and yeah, just larger scale. So that's what from what I understand, was advertised, right? Like they never really pushed the whole three faction thing.
dive in. I'll see you Planetside.
And I'll also say more often than not, it's because of the three factions that there's issues with balance. I mean, there's also base design, and then the fact that there are no balance restrictions per hex. But yeah, having three factions is obviously is going to be more often than not an issue for balancing.
How do you balance fights? Well, in a lobby shooter game, it's pretty simple. If it's a maximum of 32 players in that lobby, you add one player to the red team, one player to the blue team, till you're full. As the lobby fills up, you're never more than one person out of balance. Now, let's really screw this situation up.
Already, like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but really, like, you've got issues with matchmaking, for example. Like, you might have the same number of players on each team, but one team has a bunch of 10 KD players, and then the other team is like zero point 0.1. Obviously, there's some imbalance, right? So it's not just having the same amount of people on both sides, and then also there's base design. You could have the same quality of players on both sides, the same number, but maybe one spawn has the advantage over the other, and then the other team's kind of fucked. Like there's a lot of factors that go into balancing an actual fight. Now, obviously, it is easier to balance a lobby shooter, even though there's not many that do it successfully. Like, yeah, it's hard to think of one that comes to mind. Um, yeah, obviously, when you have three factions, a huge map, and then shitty base design on top of that, like it's gonna be even worse. But yeah, just having the same number of players on each team doesn't make it balanced.
First of all, let's make the game an MMO. So you're going to scale it up from 32 players to 2,000 players in a lobby. And then let's throw in some RPG elements.
Yeah, I was gonna say also 2,000. Like I'm pretty sure even 900 is wrong. If from what I understand, like the number is closer to 800, 750, maybe even less. Like, yeah, the number of players you can have on a continent now, ironically, it went down than what you used to have before. And it performs even worse than back when we could have like 1,000 players a continent, which is a bit weird.
That is, you went through a character creator and you picked a faction, so you can only play for one side. Now you got a major problem. If 200 people have logged in for the blue team and only 150 has logged in for the red team, oh, buddy, that fight is going to really suck.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Also, it's like the RPG element. Like, it does it really have anything to do? Like, you're not locked forever to that faction once you decide to pick TR. Like, it's not like you can never switch to NC or VS, right? Like, if you log on and you see like, oh shit, like NC have 60% pop and then TR have 20% pop. Okay, maybe I can go TR, right? Like nothing's preventing you from making a character on the other faction, right? And I'm pretty sure most people have characters on all factions. Like this isn't 2012, right? So I don't think the RPG element has anything to do with balancing, to be honest.
But there's a solution. Add a purple team. If the purple team logs 150 people on, you can balance the fights.
Yeah, but why would you need to add another team to do that? Like you could just make it so the teams, like you have two teams, you can force one team to transfer some players to the other team, right? Like because even with three factions, you're not guaranteed that okay, well because there's so many players on NC and TR have so little players, well then we're gonna go VS and then make sure that the VS and TR work together to counter the NC. Like this, this doesn't really work in practice, right?
100 people from both the red team and the purple team fight the blue team for an even 200 versus 200 fight, and the remaining 50 on red and purple can fight each other for an even 50 versus 50 fight. Right? Isn't that brilliant? And
well, no, not really, because you're not really accomplishing anything that you couldn't have done with two factions, and it would have been easier to do with two factions to say like, okay, we're gonna have even numbers on both sides. But then also you gotta factor in the fact that in Planetside 2, we're not fighting on one map per se, right? It's a whole continent. You've got multiple maps inside this huge continent, and you can go wherever you want. So having three teams that can do whatever they want, pick whatever fights they want, like it's gonna be very hard to balance. Like, and then on top of that, most of the bases like they're barely designed for a 1v1 fight, much less a 2v1. So it's like you've always got you know an attacker or defender that's gonna have like a better spawn point. Maybe they're not going to have access to the other factions spawn points. So like they're only going to fight one faction, and then the other faction's going to fight, like it's going to sandwich the other faction. Like the base design is just not built for this. And yeah, having like this just doesn't work in practice. Like I'm sure he's going to agree with that, I think, but
well, I did this with simple numbers so my brain doesn't break. You could make even matches no matter what the population is between the factions, as long as the population of one total faction wasn't greater than the sum of the other two. But let's put the final nail in the coffin of screwing this thing up. Let's go ahead and give the people free will, meaning they don't have to give a rat's ass if the fights are even, and they get to do whatever the hell they want. Enter the entire map.
Yeah, but like you shouldn't base your game on the idea that people are going to do the right thing, right? And I think Planetside 2 demonstrated that, right? The main appeal of the game for the majority of the player base, especially though like in 2026, the main appeal is that you can suck ass, like you can be a shitty FPS player, lose every single gunfight you get into, but because you've got more players on your team, you're gonna win the base more often than not, and then the alert just through sheer numbers, right? So it kind of gives you the illusion that you're winning, even though you're doing nothing. And players love this. And I understand it's like you want to go through the path of least resistance, right? Why put yourself into a situation where you're probably going to lose when you can just stare at a spawn room with like 96 of your buddies and just wait for the timer to finish. But you can't put the blame solely on the fact that like the players are have like a loser mindset, right? You've got to put mechanics in place, to restrict, spawns or force multipliers when there's too much overpop in the hex. You've got to give incentives for players to do the right thing because they're not going to do it on their own, right? That's why we have laws, in real life. You've got to give people incentives to do the right thing because on their own, the majority of people they're gonna abuse the system. They're gonna take advantage of it. They're gonna do what's easiest, and what's easiest is winning fights through overpop. And Planetside 2's demonstrated this throughout its whole existence. So yes, the mindset of the players is an issue, but this is why we have developers. This is why most games have systems in place to make sure the teams are even. The skill level of most players is okay. The bases favor kind of equal opportunity for both attacker, defender, that sort of shit, right? Like you can't just throw a bunch of players onto a map, say, hey, there's no restrictions, and then be confused when there's no even fights. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Battle flow falling apart. The most common reason for this is one faction is too strong. Some people blame it on them having a high world pop. That's rarely the issue. More often, it just has a higher concentration of skilled players, so it's uncomfortable for the general gaming population to go play against that faction.
This is probably the thing that annoys me the most. Um, well, first off, like to say that one faction doesn't always have overpop, like it's not a common issue. In prime time, maybe, but off hours, like there's definitely some days where you log on and I don't know, VS will have 60% pop, and then the other two factions are at like 27 or whatever. Like it is a relatively common issue. Now, because the game's balanced like continent wide, having unbalanced continent pop doesn't equate to having unbalanced fights per hex. But yeah, like it does encourage that sort of stuff. And then also the second point, Planetside 2, like there is no way to know which faction all the skilled players are. Like first off, it's not even a big issue because most of the skilled players left a long time ago. So there's really like a handful of decent players that are still active today. And it's impossible to know which faction they're on because there's no filter where you can look at the map and say, skilled players, check. Oh, they're all on VS today? All right, well, I'm not going to fight VS. Like, there is no way to know because how do you even measure skill in Planetside 2? Like, you can't see the other person's stats. You can't see you can't equate battle rank with skill. So really, like, how do you know that the skilled players are on that certain faction, right? It makes no sense. And then for the other two factions to be like, oh, all right, well, since they're all on NC today, let's just not fight them and go fight each other. Like, you really think the average Planetside 2 player logs on, somehow has this filter that tells them, okay, avoid that faction because all the skilled players are on it. Like what? I don't understand the reasoning here. And yeah, like I don't understand. And I'll also say that the skilled players, they're there for first person shooter gameplay. So if you avoid fighting them, they're just gonna hop on to an alt that's on the other factions that are having a fight, right? Like I've never seen a skilled player that's like, oh well, all right, well I'll just ghost cap today because the other two factions are avoiding me because I'm too skilled. They're gonna find a way to get to the fight, right? Whether that be just flying over with a beacon, dropping on there and just killing as many people as they can, even though like they have no connection to the lattice, or just the simpler thing of just switching to the underpop faction where there's the fight. The players are going to find the fight, so it's not like you can avoid them. And there's also no way to know where they are to avoid them in the first place. So yeah, I don't understand. Like, yeah, like even if they're on this faction, the map's huge, so it's like you have to know. Okay, well they're on this faction, they're at this base. Let's like no, this doesn't make any sense.
The two weaker factions will then favor fighting each other, compounding the problem, where the overpopulated and higher skilled faction does not have enough fights, so they start grinding other factions into the warp gate. Situations like that are not really anyone's fault. No one intentionally planned for that to happen, it just plays out that way. But sometimes, in more rare cases,
I'd say it is like people's fault because you got to put some blame on the players and also the devs here. Like I'll put most of the blame on the devs because it's your game. You've had like how many years now where you've observed the issue. You should have fixed it. Yeah, like it really is the devs' fault that you don't realize that this is happening, and you don't take any measures to counter that fact. But it also is the player's fault in the sense that you see that two factions are fighting each other, and instead of joining, trying to cut the lattice to join the fight, you're like, oh, perfect. Well, I'm just gonna warp gate them, ghost cap for an hour, cut them off, and then ghost cap what's cut off, right? Like you're doing everything to avoid the fight instead of trying to join the fight. So yeah, there's a bit of blame to be shared here. Although really it is the dev's fault for allowing this to happen in the first place.
does go to the extreme where factions full on make truces and grind one faction into the warp gate. The infamous version of this on Connery is Kestrel Accords, where VS and NC decide to ruin all the fights for the night by intentionally trucing up to fight only one faction. And sometimes it doesn't have to be cooperation, it can be a unilateral decision. If a Zergfit leader that is controlling 25 to 50% of a faction's population on a map decides, I'm never going to fight VS again, I'm only going to fight TR, while the VS aren't party to this issue, the effect is the same. The VS doesn't get proper resistance on the NC front, and both the NC and VS end up grinding the TR into their warp gate. This is one of those really challenging elements of Planetside, because on the one hand, when you get into some massive three-way aerial battle, it is one of the most epic experiences you will have in gaming. And having three factions not only improves the lore, but it is absolutely critical to having large, persistent world maps. Think back to World of Warcraft open world PvP zones. If you were on a faction that heavily favored Alliance or Horde, you have the experience of just getting crushed due to their overpopulation. And that's what would happen to Planetside. If you had 1,000 on one side and 800 on the other side, there's no...
Yeah, but it's the devs' job to figure out, like, okay, you can't have, if you got 1,200 on one side and 800 on the other side, well, sorry, 200 of you are going to have to log off and go to the other faction, right? Like, there should be incentives put in place for people to have even fights. And that has nothing to do with you having three factions or not. Like, it's just, like, I don't really understand what you're trying to say here. It's, no, like, it really is like a dev issue where, like, you've just got bad game design, and you do nothing about it. Like, it's been how many years now, and we haven't figured out how to create a balanced fight in a hex, right? Like, and even we've went backwards in the sense that we've removed as many restrictions as possible on force multipliers. We've doubled the pull rate of maxes. We've got the outfit module discounts, construction discounts. We've removed the timers on vehicles and maxes. Like, I don't under. It's like we just stack issues, right? It's like you have shitty base design that usually favors attackers, and then on top of that, you have no measures in place for population restriction hex wide. And then on top of that, there's no force multiplier restriction, which means you can overpop. And not only you can overpop, but you can have 50 maxes, air to ground, vehicles. Meanwhile, you're fighting 4 guys, 4 heavy assaults. It's like, bro, like, you don't think, when past a certain threshold, we can't say like, okay, no more force multipliers for you, right? You don't think we can redesign bases, because like for example, we used to have these 3-point tower bases where it's like you've got 2 points outdoor, which the defenders have no hope of resecuring, and then you have the one indoor inside the tower, right? Kind of shielded from all the bullshit. And so you've got the Zerg faction. They come in, they deploy their buses like right next to the 2 outdoor points. They've got their vehicles, their bullshit. They're starting the cap, right? And then if they just have those 2 points, they're gonna win the cap eventually. It's gonna take them like 10 minutes instead of 3 or 4. And so most of the time they'll go inside the tower to get the 3rd point and speed things up. And that's where the outnumbered defenders, they're shielded from a bit of the hesh. And they can have a semi-balanced fight around that capture point, right? And that's kind of how the skilled players were able to have fun, and then the casual Zerg players were able to get their win regardless, right? Because they were basically just fighting over speeding up the cap. And then Rel kind of took issue to that, and he removed the indoor point, put it outside, in the middle of nowhere. Sairo or whatever the fuck on Esamir is a good example. It's like we've just been working backwards. Like, instead of taking base designs that work, improving on it, we're like, all right, well, everybody likes biolabs, let's kill that shit. They like 3-point tower bases. All right, well, let's put the indoor point outside, so that way you have to get heshed if you want to resecure all 3. It's like, come on, man. Like,
way to balance it. But if there ever is to be a Planetside 3, we have to make it work better. So look,
a Planetside 3. Come on, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry to bring you guys back into reality, but Planetside 3. Planetside 3, first off, was Planetside Arena, and that shit was dead on arrival. But okay, let's ignore that. Planetside 3 is still not happening, right? Like, the game, Planetside 2 was a failure throughout like its whole lifespan. Yeah, it's a surprise. Like, it's still up and running. Though, I mean, a surprise. I mean, most of the people are playing this because they can't play a game with balanced teams, right? And that's quite a lot of players who have no other games to play because most games have balanced teams. FPS games, at least. And so that's why we've got such a dedicated player base that, like, no matter how much you shitify the game, as long as there's lack of population balance, as long as you can fucking Zerg a base with as many players as you want, the game's going nowhere. But that's not enough to incentivize making a Planetside 3. Like, you're an investor, you look at Planetside 2, you're like, what the fuck is this piece of shit? And you kind of glance over it and you're like, all right, well, no. And even if even if somebody, has got money to throw around, they're an idiot. They're like, okay, well, I'm gonna buy the PS2, the Planetside franchise, and make a PS3. Planetside 3 is not going to be the game you guys want because we've already proved that Planetside 2 does not work. So they're gonna go in a completely different direction, like Planetside Arena, like they're gonna go with something that works and give it a Planetside twist. This is exactly what happened with Planetside 2, by the way, right? Planetside 1, it was a good game. It was not an FPS like Battlefield, for example. Battlefield works. What did they do? They bought a cheaper franchise, Planetside, gave it a Battlefield, they took Battlefield, pretty much copy pasted it, and they gave it a Planetside twist. That's why a lot of the PS1 players were disappointed in Planetside 2. They thought it was going to be Planetside 2 with better graphics. But a lot of the shit changed, like the silos powering the bases, the all that stuff, right? So this is exactly what's going to happen if for some reason somebody makes a Planetside 3, which I highly doubt is going to happen, or at least not for like a good decade. Like people have to forget about the failure that was Planetside before they even consider making a sequel to this game. That's just facts. And yeah, it's gonna be nothing like this game. Even though I agree, it should be this game built with a better physics engine. So you're not falling through the map or flipping with a rock every time your lightning hits a rock and shit. Should be a Planetside that has focus on the gunplay, restrictions to create balanced fights, all that shit, right? I agree. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry to say it. So let's just stop talking about Planetside 3. Let's stop fantasizing about it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be what you expect it to be.
Let's think through some ideas. The first thing that comes to my mind is thinking back to the original Planetside. It had a benefit in having 10 continents that were connected via continental lattice. It's very hard to control population when it's all on one continent, but if you could use that three-way battle balancing effect, and going back to my first population example, the 50 VS versus 50 TR battle could be going on in Forceral, the 100 NC versus 100 TR could be going on Sizor, and the 100 VS versus 100 NC could be happening on Hossin. So you're able to three-way balance the fights across the fronts, but you've effectively separated them into three even fights across the continental.
Yeah, but basically what you're doing is you're taking the three factions and then you're splitting them up into equal 1v1 fights. So why not just have two factions and split them into equal fights? It's not like having a third faction does anything for balancing, because in the end, you're just having 1v1s, right?
Lattice. And those numbers are really weak for Planetside. Hopefully they're 10 times that, but you get the idea. Now, to make the fights balanced requires a lot more than just numbers. But let's be real, in most shooters, you run into situations where in a 16 versus 16, it's still not a balanced fight based on skills on either side. It has improved drastically over the years due to skill-based matchmaking, but there is always going to be a challenge of high-skilled outfits going up against more casual outfits. Now we get really, really tricky, but I feel like this can be addressed too.
Well, this is the thing. First off, skill-based matchmaking, it sort of works, but yeah, it isn't perfect. Like, especially the more skilled you get, eventually you're going to reach that point where they're going to be putting you on completely shitty teams where you're carrying everybody, because there's just not enough players at your level to balance out, right? And that's super annoying. Like even if you played like Battlefield 6 recently, like I'm pretty shit. I win a few games. They're putting me with complete fucking retards for the next 6 rounds, right? And like, there's no way around it. It's really frustrating for like even like a semi decent player. Like, you put them on a team like that because the other team is completely shit, and now they're on a shitty team where like you have to carry everybody, and then you're facing like a handful of decent players on the other team with no support from your team, and it's like it really is fucking annoying. So yeah, that's not like the best solution to it. I'd say honestly in Planetside 2, you can let the casual players have a bit of overpop to make up for the fact that you're probably gonna kill, three, four, five of them before they kill you, right? But the thing is, you've got to encourage these players to get better, to improve at the game. You can't just tell them that, like, okay, well, they can kill 6 of you before they die. All right, well, put 12, and then once you're 12 versus 1, then you'll have a chance. And then we'll also give you overpowered scout rifles, shotguns. Go to the nearest terminal to equip a max. Why not get a few tanks as well? It's like, bro, come on. Like, you've got to do something where it's like, you can have a little bit of overpop, but if you have a little bit of overpop, no force multipliers for you, right? Or you get minimal access to them. Like, you can't have overpop, force multipliers, unbalanced classes and weapons. Then it just becomes like a shit show, right? And it's not fun for anyone. So I do think you can balance the game based on having, the side with casual players being able to field, maybe 10%, 20% pop max, Once the fights are getting more than, 70-30, like, yeah, that's pushing it. I'd say 60-40 is probably ideal, where you've got, the skilled players going to the underpop side, and then, the average casual players, they've got a bit more pop. It's all right. They're a bit more shit. But, the base design makes it so, like, it's kind of fun. They're not allowed to spam force multipliers because they have overpop, that sort of shit. You remove res nades, res spam. Both sides can have fun.
In a Planetside 3, you'd expect you have a lot more population. I would like to see 2,000 players per faction.
Why the fuck would I expect to see more population? Planetside Arena failed. Planetside 2, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of interest, especially in the beginning. But now, right? Like, who the fuck cares about this game now? Who the fuck knows about it? You've got maybe like a 1,000 players maximum that play actively across all servers. Why would you expect to have more pop? What? Like, no, I don't think that's a given.
Rather than just 200. And then you would be opening up fronts for each faction on multiple continents. But what?
And then also there's this issue, 2,000 players, we're going to have more people playing, blah, blah, blah. Man, the game isn't fun just because you crammed, 500 players onto my screen. In fact, it becomes less fun when you do so. It's like, yeah, you've got the first, 5 seconds where you're like, wow, holy shit, It's a wow factor. But after a while, man, like, it gets old, and it's trumped by the many issues. Like, you've got too many players in a hex, your performance goes to shit. Too many players on the hex, it's hard to focus. Like, now everywhere you go, you've got like 50 people. You turn a corner, you're fucked. The audio doesn't work, so you can't rely on that. You're fucked. Like the gunplay as well. Like, the gunplay, very good in this game, but it's not balanced around large fights, right? It's ripped from Battlefield Bad Company 2, and I don't even remember. I think it was like, was it 36 or like not more than 48 players per map. And so yeah, when you start using gunplay that's built around that shit for maps that have like 2,000 players, like yeah, it doesn't really scale that well. That's why most of the better fights in Planetside 2, like they're usually like 24, 48, right? Once you get to the 96 plus, yeah, shit becomes a bit less fun.
One of those fronts would be intended for higher skilled players. You could use the carrot approach of encouraging them to go to that front by giving them extra rewards, or use the stick approach by nerfing their spawns in the fights intended for the more casual players. We're getting
Yeah, but how do you decide what fight is intended for a casual player? How do you even define what a skilled player versus a casual player? Like, right? It's like, okay, if I have like a 0.1 KD, you're going to put me into this fight. If I have a 2 KD, you're going to put me into that fight. If I have a 12 KD, which fight are you going to put me in? Like, because I can understand the guys that have like a sub 1 KD, they're going to have a lot of people to fight with. You start getting into, the higher KDs, like, 7, 8, that sort of shit. You're going to have trouble finding other players to match with. And you're basically just going to be setting up Jaeger scrims. So yeah, I'm not really sure how that would work. And then also in a game like Planetside 2, you can be a stalker that has, 50 KD. You're dog shit, right? And I put you against like a 2 KD, 2 KPM heavy, you're getting fucked. So I don't think it's very easy to balance. And then you've got vehicle players versus infantry. So I don't see how you would define a casual fight, and then also like enforcing the thing. Like, I don't know, it's a bit weird. Like, honestly, the best thing to do is just let the casual players crutch on overpop or force multipliers if you want, but make it so there's a limit, right? So like you can't have the shit that's happening now. And the skilled players by default, they kind of want a challenge. They're gonna go to the underpop faction. They're gonna go to the faction that's having issues. Because I can't really think of any skilled players that likes to sit in a Zerg and just steamroll the people, right? They come here, especially in this game, to get nice streaks, to farm, get high KPMs, and usually you can do that better on the underpop faction. So I think the skilled players kind of balance themselves. It's more like the casual players that need to be kind of told, like, no, you can't have 95% pop in this hex. Please, disperse a bit. No, you can't have 50 lightnings heshing the spawn. Give the guy a chance to step out. Because yeah, like realistically, like I know we have to hate skilled players. This is Planetside 2. Skilled players killed the game. Fuck anybody who's better than me. I'm not here to learn or improve. I'm just here to hate on the skilled players. The three that are left. But come on, let's be realistic here.
into really difficult, nuanced situations, and I don't think you straight up limit what people can do. But I do think there's reason to say, hey, let's try to pit the best players against the best players and get them clashing into each other on specific fronts for each faction. So Planetside 2...
But this happens already naturally, too. It's like, in a fight, like, I've got a lot of people where, like, they'll see me, they see the diver's helmet, they hear the V5s, and they come for me. And I'm not even skilled. There's a lot of fights where I know the guy is skilled and I go specifically for him. Like it happens organically. Like you don't have to force the same players to fight each other. if you are skilled, you're probably going to end up killing the other people that aren't skilled, and you're going to have a challenge fighting, the guy you have trouble killing. I don't really think there's any need to kind of isolate them, to be honest. Like they already do this on their own.
In its inception, had this crazy cool idea of let's make these continents huge, bigger than Planetside 1. And let's get even more people per continent. Let's make this scale crazy. And I do think a lot of people fell in love with this game just from that first few months of initial chaos. So I don't want to knock what they did with that. At the same time,
That's yes and no. Like a lot of people played in the beginning for, how unique it was. Yeah, it was a massive game. But yeah, as I said, once you get past the fact, like, holy shit, there's thousands of players on my screen. Once you get past that wow factor, you look at your frame rate, you're like, oh, nice, I'm having a Planet slideshow. The gunplay feels weird with that type of players, if you can even play, because you have such little frames and performance is so shit. And a lot of people came to check out the game and they quit pretty quick, right? Like the two things that carry the game are the gunplay, which is why a lot of skilled players come back to check out the game, and a few of them stuck around. And also, as I said, the lack of population balance. It's a double-edged sword, which drives a lot of players away, especially FPS players who kind of want reasonably balanced fights. And it also attracts a lot of casual non-FPS players who suck at FPS. They don't want to engage with the gunplay, but they still somehow want to win. And so they use the overpop. They feel good about themselves. They won. They used a very difficult tactic of overpop, master tacticians, and they feel they did something. And that's kind of like the main appeal the game has had, right? Like it's not really cramming so many people onto a map, right? And I mean, you log in most of the time, and there's not enough people to fill the map anyways. And they keep lowering the number of people allowed on the continent regardless. So, yeah, I have to disagree here.
Was a precipitous fall off after launch, which is normal for games, but if you are able to develop a flow that makes it feel more fun and fair for all players, I don't think that drop off would have been so steep.
Yeah, exactly. If the game gave you a chance to have a somewhat fair fight, like it doesn't even have to be 50-50 with matchmaking on both sides. As I said, you can let a faction have, 60% pop because they're shit. The skilled players go to the 40% pop, but you've got to have proper base design. You've got to have limits to force multipliers in place, and also population. So like it doesn't go past a certain threshold. And also you got to balance the stuff properly, which the game did pretty well in the beginning, I'd say. And then, we had Rel, which tried to lower the skill ceiling. We had combined arms, that sort of shit. Oh, also the audio engine worked well before the PS4 port, so you could rely on audio. But yeah, like there's a lot of factors in place that are why the game failed. But yeah, I'd say the fact that they just let you have as much overpop as you want with unbalanced weapons, performance issues, all that sort of shit, like that kind of killed the game and alienated a lot of players. And had they not done that, yeah, the game would be in a completely different situation. And I mean, you can see it with every update. A bunch of people came to check it out, and then they see, oh, nothing's changed. Oh, they made the issues we complain about, they were made even worse. They removed the timers. They reworked the resource system so it's even more spammier. And on top of that, they degrade the gunplay and shit. All right, I'm out of here. But had they tackled performance, they sort of tackled, and then they made it worse. But had they tackled base design and then, making fights a bit more balanced, we would have so many players right now. And it's really sad that we have to go the rel direction, where fuck those issues, let's make them worse and let's add more. It's sad. It is what it is. But he is right. If they had fixed that issue, we would have more players now. Because yes, it's normal for games to drop off, but you can also recover from that drop. And there's plenty of games which they had a shitty start and now they're doing great. Right? There's also games that had a great start and after a few years they do shit. So yeah.
Planetside 2, you had that massive battle for the first month, but then it started feeling like, well, what do we do now? While many people are good with glorious fights just for the sake of it, most people are going to want to feel like they have an objective and they can contribute to it. Planetside 2 started with Indar, where the battles would rage on for days and the continent would never lock. It's now shifted to where you get on a continent, an alert starts, and the continent locks after 2-3 hours. The pendulum has swung too hard. The first one, there is not enough direction. The second one, it starts feeling like a team deathmatch mode, not like a persistent world, when you're just resetting the world every few hours. And as time goes on, the three-way has a harder and harder time doing its balancing job. The most prominent feature...
Yeah, but the three-way never did anything for balance in the first place. And then I feel people wouldn't really give that much of a shit about alerts or whatever. Like at the end of the day, people will log on to Battlefield and stuff to play on the same maps and shit for years, right? So I don't think you can really blame that. Oh, it's because alerts are 1 hour instead of 3. Like no one gives a shit. At the end of the day, if the game's fun, people are going to play it. The reason the game isn't fun is because performance, poor base design, lack of balance in terms of fights, like population, force multiplier, and they fuck the gunplay. Where let's buff shotguns 3 times and remove nanoweave without normalizing anything. Let's let people run around with cloak flashes and shotguns that kill you from across the base. Let's just let that happen forever. Our game engine doesn't handle movement. Well, let's give light assaults, impulse nades, ambushers, and let's give them perfect accuracy while in the air. Let's add javelins from Planetside Arena since that shit failed. Let's make them spaceships and let people have thumpers and shit on the back running around annoying everyone. And give them extra health with the implant. That way they're harder to kill if your bullets even register because of how fast the fucking thing's going. Like, come on.
Is one faction being perceived as the most powerful and the other two factions ignoring it. And the second feature is when you have 2,000 players on...
I don't think people ignore the faction because it's powerful. Like, most of the time they ignore it. Like, it's just they go where they want to go, right? Like if you look at Planetside 2 on a map, it's 3 Zergs doing the best they can to avoid themselves, right? They each pick their lattice, steamroll down it. As soon as they encounter a bit of resistance, let's redeploy, let's fuck off, let's go ghost cap another lane. This is Planetside 2. Most of the player base doesn't want to fight. And I mean, you see this off hours, right? Off hours, constantly killing all the fucking spawns. There's like 50 people on. Well, no one gives a shit. One base, 50 people. Let's blow up all the fucking spawns and then just jerk off and overpop while everyone logs off. That way we can say we won. These are the people, like it's just a player mindset. Like, it's not because a faction's strong or not. In fact, like they just attack it because it's just they go for the weak faction because it's easier. And then if that weak faction fights back, then they'll go fight the overpop faction or the stronger faction or whatever, as long as they don't notice that they're steamrolling them. And then when they notice and redeploy to defend, they fuck off to another lattice. Like, it's not really because the faction's strong or not. I don't know. It's weird.
The continent, the difference between 660 on one faction, 640 on the next, and 620 on the next is not that much. But if you take those same spreads and say 100 for one faction, 120 for another, and 140 for another, you start to feel that delta.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, and first off, like, no faction gets 600 nowadays, but it's the fact that you're splitting them across a giant map. So it's like you can have 300 on each faction, but if in a map there's a faction that has 200, and then the other faction they're fighting put 50 players there, and their other 250 players are steamrolling the other faction, who only has 100 defenders to spare, while they're defending against the other faction who's got 100. Meanwhile, they spend another 50 to ghost cap down that lattice while nobody's watching. Like, it just becomes a fucking mess, right? Like, you're looking at continent-wide numbers. They don't balance hex-wise. Like, you can't have 100 players on every faction continent-wide and expect your fights to be balanced hex-wise, right? Balancing on the macro scale doesn't do shit really for the micro scale. And that's the issue also, because we've got continent like balance queues, we've got NSOs. What a very useful addition that was, ruining our performance for really nothing. And it doesn't do shit, right? Because you can look at the 33, 33, 33. Doesn't matter how many players those factions have. They don't create balanced fights hex wise, right? Unless you lock the map so it's just one fucking base, and you make that base have fair spawn points for everybody, then maybe you can have a fair fight. But base design shit. It's not meant for 3 faction fights. Barely meant for 2 faction fights. Like, and then you've got so many of them. Like, your pop is split unevenly across the whole continent. You can't expect the factions on their own to create balanced fights, especially when the players are incentivized to overpop or ghost cap, because they suck ass at the whole FPS part of the game, and they just want to sneak in their cap and win the alert.
A lot more as population dwindles. So the high population faction can really throw their weight around much better, and it feels all the more unfair for the other factions.
This isn't always true also, because I play off hours a lot, and there's a lot of times where you've got the overpop faction, but because they're only overpopping by they have 47% continent pop, and the other 2 factions are just stomping on them because they're double teaming them. Like, having the stronger faction doesn't always mean you win, and a lot of times it does cause the other factions to kind of just overpop, like overpop you by teaming together and just fucking you in the ass, and you don't have enough players to defend on both fronts. Sometimes also it does create sort of fair fights, because you've got 50% pop on one faction, the other 2 have 50% pop. They're fighting on the same sort of lattices because the continents pretty much shut off, and you can get fair fights on both fronts. Like, just having the stronger faction doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna steamroll everyone.
So anyways, where did we land? I would certainly say inconclusive. I would really like to hear your thoughts on it. I do not think Planetside 3 should go away from 3 faction combat. I mean, how could you even pick a faction to delete? That may be easy for some of you. Let me know down in the comments if so.
Well, it would just be VS. Like the original thing was supposed to be TR and NC, and then they just kind of threw in VS. So I would imagine you delete VS. Like the faction doesn't really have any flavor apart from maybe the directives where you've got heat mechanics, but the weapons are bland as fuck. Most people can't even use the heat mechanic anyway. Like, yeah, I guess it's cool to have three factions, but if you really have to delete one, it's not that hard. Like, the game was supposed to launch with TR and NC. Those are kind of like the two most polished factions. So I would remove VS. Like, that's kind of like the logical choice.
But I think it needs to take a more active role in encouraging all that population to form up into evenly balanced fronts. The game is going to encourage a 100 versus 100 fight over on Sizor between the TR and the NC. It's going to try to draw in the more casual players by offering bonuses to the more skilled players to go somewhere else. And it's going to create.
Yeah, but do the skilled players give a shit about bonuses? Because by definition, if they're skilled, they're already leveling up the game faster than everyone else. So it's like here, don't join this fun fight where you can farm a lot of casuals. Go fight the other two skilled players, and here's like a 50% bonus. Drinks on us. I don't see how that would work, right? Like that doesn't really make any sense for me. And it's like also like you have to be shit to become skilled. So what happens when like a casual player crosses the threshold, but they're not skilled enough to go fight the skilled players, but they're still stomping on most of the casuals. What do we do with these guys? Look, I don't know. Like I don't see how this makes much sense. Really, what should be done is just you design the bases so they can be fun while you're being overpopped. And I mean, it's already been done. Like you just look at why are biolabs fun? Why are tower bases with the point inside the tower base fun? Oh, it's because it blocks most of the vehicle bullshit. Okay. It's close to the spawn points, so the defenders, when they die, they can quickly respawn and get back to the fight. And like you look at what makes a base good in Planetside 2, and there's really not that many. You take those attributes, you make a base that's fun to fight at, balanced around the gunplay you have, and then you make limits. So it's like, okay, well, this base is going to be fun to fight at until you have around 65% overpop. Then it's definitely not fun for the defenders. Okay, then once we reach 65% pop, okay, no more spawning. You can't spawn there. Maybe put a penalty on revives. You can't revive there. You can't use force multipliers. If your tank blows up, well, sorry, you can't pull another. If your max dies, you're not pulling another until the pop goes down or you win. And you really just have to do this on the attacker side, in my opinion, because as soon as the defenders have overpop, they're gonna manage to kill the spawns. And at that point, you have to incentivize them to push to the next hex, because you don't want people like what happens during off hours where people just kill spawns and they don't want to push because they know that if they push, they're gonna fucking die anyways. You want to incentivize, okay, well, you kill a spawn, you kill a fight, you start a fight, basically. I'm not sure how you would do that. Maybe, once you've killed a fight in that hex, you have to push the other hex. Otherwise, the hex you were defending, it automatically flips after like a minute if you don't cap the other point or something like that, right? I'm sure we could think of ways to incentivize pushes like that, or like you can't redeploy until you've pushed to the next base. But basically, like this idea of balancing, like okay, the casuals are gonna fight each other on one side, and then the handful of skilled players, they're gonna go kill each other over here. I don't know, man. I don't think that's a very good idea. I don't think that's very fun. Maybe the skilled players, they just want to relax and farm casual players. What's really the wrong in that? And if there's enough casual players where like, if 10 of them team together, they manage to kill the guy, everyone's having fun. Who gives a shit? And the casual players, at the end of the day, they're not here to win gunfights. They don't give a shit that they're gonna die, 50 times before they get a kill. They're here to color the map, right? So let them color the map. Let them color the map. You can win. You're probably gonna get farmed while you're trying to cap the base, but eventually you're gonna win. And there you have it. But you're not allowed to bring in, cancerous mechanics like overpop, to the extent where you've got 90 plus, 90 plus percent in the hex, with vehicles and shit. Sorry, there's a certain threshold where like past that it's not fun. So you limit that. You balance the bases around this, and like, yeah, you've got a fun game where both casuals and skilled players can interact with each other, and each one gets what they want, right? The skilled players get their farm. They don't give a fuck about losing the base. I mean, it's nice if they win, but they're here for the gunplay. And then you've got the guys that are here to play, milsim, role play, color the map simulator. They cook up some story in their head about how KD doesn't matter. I'm a support player. I'm actually better than the FPS players that are farming the fuck out of me. I'm contributing more to my team, and they cap the base and they're happy. So I don't see why you need to kind of isolate them, and also just giving skilled players, a bonus XP for fighting each other. Like, I don't think that's gonna work because they already have skills, so they're already leveling up faster than everyone else. They don't really need a boost.
100 versus 100 fight for them over on Esamir, where they're going to be trying to push up and down that continental lattice. And in that matter, for 4,000 players on a server, let's say, it could create between 9 to 15 interesting fronts across 10 different continents on the continental lattice. And as the fights move on, players log in and players log out. Through easy spawning mechanics, it could encourage people on where they go. In all of this, there is still the opportunity for the outfit to load up in galaxies and buck the trend, bring their own logistics, support themselves, don't depend on easy spawn mechanics granted to casual players, and they could go be a force multiplier on one of these lattices to push an agenda. But the casual players could continue to make up the sticky fronts that are going on around the map.
Also, I mean, I'm not sure what kind of skilled players he knows that brings galaxies. I mean, considering there's like a handful, like a Valkyrie maximum, I can see, and then deploy a beacon and spawn from there. But most of the time, the skilled players, like, they see a base is getting zerged, they redeploy there using the redeploy system if it lets them, because Rel liked to he liked to prevent that. But they're the ones using the spawn system. The casual players, they're the ones making Sunday trains and galaxy packs or whatever and running across the map unchallenged, right? The skilled players, they don't really give a fuck about driving around and shit. They just want to kill people. So they'll spawn in. All they want is a fight.
So everyone, it starts here with you. How do we take the best parts of the three-way battles in Planetside 2 and leverage them into a system for Planetside 3 while deleting the parts of three-way battles that make Planetside 2 really suck sometimes? That is going to be all for now, fellow Raxians. I am Commander Sirius. And until next time, I will see you Planetside.
Well, yeah, realistically, I mean, there's not many ways to actually properly solve this issue. Like, you give or take some. Not everyone's going to be happy. And yeah, regardless, it doesn't really matter because, yeah, Planetside 3 isn't happening. And it's definitely not going to follow the same style this game has. So yeah, I don't know how long I ranted for, but hopefully you guys enjoyed.